it is 2024, and that means it's time for an election season to come up. Now, every 4 years we have emotions inflamed, we have discussions which always are passionate, and people get involved, and emotions are involved, and that's just part of the discourse we have. And I can say, as authors, we have to back away from expressing our political views, or so the experts agree. Case in point, J.K. Rowling. Her position wasn't political, but still got in a lot of trouble with her positions about the female anatomy and what takes place. So, there's a lot of emotions to go around, especially on this medium. But I would say that in the political season, and I just had a very interesting conversation with someone very close to me, someone very dear and close to me. Um, I can say that most times when people, not just us, but people all around the country, in fact the world, have discussions of that nature, it tends to be a little bit emotional. But one thing we always got to keep in mind, that it should never be personal, and we always have to respect each other's opinion, no matter what we feel or how we feel about certain politicians, political parties, you name it. And I guess the one person we can blame for all of this, the one person we can lay this at the door, is a gentleman named Niccolo Machiavelli. Yes, that Machiavelli, who wrote The Prince back in the 1500s, when the time of the Medicis were in power in Italy. Now, he was the author of that infamous book, which gave some insight of how politicians are supposed to act today, or the methodology of acting the way they do today. And that you use not so fair tactics to win over your side or the crowd that you're hoping to influence. And we've seen this in political ads. Case in point, Lyndon B. Johnson in 1964 with Lilly, that that commercial in which there's a countdown of a nuclear weapon going off, and there's a little girl picking flowers at the same time. That campaign used it against, I believe, Barry Goldwater in 1964, 2 years after the Cuban Missile Crisis. A real event um, happened that almost really uh, destroyed this planet. But luckily, cooler heads prevailed back then when John F. Kennedy was president. Well, I can just tell you that it was used also in another way. Back in 1988, during the presidential election back then, between George H.W. Bush, W's father, and Michael Dukakis, who I believe was the governor of Massachusetts at the time. There was a gentleman by the name of Willie Horton, who his face was shown constantly in ads for the Bush campaign against Dukakis, and were very effective. In fact, it reached the point in which, during a debate in which the late great Bernard Shaw of CNN asked Michael Dukakis the question, if someone happened to assault your wife or even kill your wife, would you in fact install the death penalty? To which Dukakis said no. And I'm sure everyone has been influenced by that Willie Horton ad to the point that, guess what? He lost, I think, in almost a landslide, but he lost pretty big in 1988. So those were two examples of Machiavellian tactics, I would say, to win the other side to your cause, or to your side, in order to win an election, or just using those tactics just to convince people that the other guy is not so good. And all I can just tell you is that in election year, especially this election year, you see tactics going on all the time that inflame emotions, cause family members to just go out, family and friends, just to go after each other into disagreements, pure disagreements about stances on the issues, the players involved, you name it. But the one thing I would just say that politics is always politics. We always have a voice to say about them, and sometimes those voices do get inflamed. And the one thing that I want to take away is and really express to everyone and try to advise everyone, including myself, is that we should never be so emotional that we take it personal or express our viewpoints to another person personally. The other person has their point of view, and we should respect each point of view, even not we disagree with them or not, or agree with them at all. But the fact of the matter is that everyone has a point of view that must be respected, even though we may not like what we hear. And the politicians, exactly, they're fighting for our vote. They're fighting for us to believe in their cause or their mission. And we either can accept it or reject it by going to the polls and voting for them or not. But merely, it's the sale. It's merely the fact that they try to sell you on their position. And they can get you in a position, if they can say things, they can get that emotional charge out of you. Guess what? That's the point, and that's what they want to do all along, to make sure that you check that X for them when it comes to election day. So, as I'm finishing this up, let me just say that, again, we should never be personal with our opinions, our facts. We gather a lot of information, we share the information, and whether or not we believe that information is right or wrong, we have to respect each other's opinion. And I would say, as an author, the experts tell us never to project our political ideas into our works, or even on a form like this, or on a written form. And I will say there are some authors who have built up enough goodwill with the audiences that they can do that. And there's no right or wrong there. It's just the fact that those authors can do that, and really they simply don't care, which is okay. From the bestsellers to people that have been established for a long time. But for someone like myself, as you know, I cannot take the chance on doing that. So that's why I'm always trying to be pragmatic and middle of the road. And if I have said something in the past that was politically charged, hey, forgive me, okay? I don't want to change anyone's mind or influence anyone's mind by my so-called political views, which, again, I am totally down the road and really don't care one side or the other. I may say something that may sound like it has common sense, but again, common sense does not have a political party. It's just common sense. So with that in mind, I hope that you've learned something about my political stances, and not only that, but also understand politics is basically how we make of it and what we think about the subject, the issues, the events that go on in our lives that affect each and every one of us on a daily basis or every 4 years. So I'll leave that with you. And again, it's all subjective. None of us has the right answer or the right political party, but we just choose who we feel is going to lead us at the time and make our lives better. And that's what it should always be about. So with that in mind, I thank you. And if you like what you've seen so far, please don't forget to click the subscribe button at the very bottom. And if not, you can also click the banner above to visit my website or other sites that I'm on. I would love to talk with you and chop it up, talk with you and converse with you about anything that you might have seen from my past posts or even this one. But I do want to thank you for your time. I do want to thank each and every one of you for watching this, and I hope that, again, that you learned something from it. And I'll hopefully see you the next time I say something that I feel needs to be said. So with that in mind, I want to wish each and every one of you the best. Enjoy the rest of your week or whenever you're watching this. And again, always in closing, take care.